So with everything going on, a lot of people spending more time at home, I figured I would share a couple of tips and tricks with you guys. I apologize in advance if you guys hear the dogs in the background. Here's one of them. Say hi, Millie. So today I'm going to show you guys how to reverse sear a pork chop, and we're going to make a side of rice with some onions and peppers. Let's get started. So now that we're outside, I'm going to show you guys how to get your grill lit. I don't use lighter fluid, so we're going to go ahead and add our charcoal to our chimney over here. You can find that at a lot of your grocery stores, Home Depot, excuse the train. And then we're going to use this wax cube here, which you can also find at Home Depot in the grilling section. And we're going to light this. There we go. And then we're going to sit this on top of that burning cube, and we're going to let the heat transfer from the bottom here once the wind cooperates a little bit more. All the way to the top. Now while we're doing that, let's go back inside and get some other things going. So here I've been marinating the pork chops, and all I've done, it's really simple. I've added salt, pepper, and minced garlic, and then I let it marinate in a mojo seasoning. And the mojo seasoning is pretty much a Cuban based seasoning, and it's super easy. You don't even really have to make it. And I'm going to explain what that means in a second. If you want to do it like I did, you just go to Publix and buy it. It was actually on sale. So I let that marinate for a few hours. I did about 6 hours. You don't have to go that long with pork if you don't. You can also use beef or chicken. Mojo goes really on anything, and it tastes really good. Once our grill gets lit, we're going to go ahead and set it indirect, but the longer you marinate it, the better. The marinade actually penetrates the meat a little bit better the longer you let it marinate. So consider that. And I know a lot of people don't. So this is our regular schmegular long grain rice. You can get it from Publix, any grocery store. You can also use jasmine rice for this recipe. Any type of rice really kind of works with it based on the experiences that I had. So the first thing we want to do, of course, with this rice is to wash it. And you'll see what I mean by washing your rice. You're simply going to just add water and continue to stir it with your hand, and make sure that every time you pour the water out, the water gets clearer and clearer every time you pour the water out, until the water itself is almost translucent itself. So I've added water. I'm just rinsing this rice out. This water is really murky right now, but by the time we're done, the water is going to be super clear. We're taking a lot of that starch off. A lot of the impurities in the rice, like that guy there, they're going to float to the top because it's lighter than the actual weight of the rice itself. So we're going to just take those out, and then we're going to, like I said, we're going to pour this water out, and we're going to keep doing it until the water becomes more clear. So I'll show you guys an example here. We're going to pour our water out carefully and slowly without background. And I'm going to come back. I'm going to keep rinsing. And every time you rinse it, the water should get a little more and more clear. The rice, and that's going to help that rice not be as sticky and clumpy. So we're just going to toss our rice around. And what you're also going to notice too is losing a lot of rice. Excuse the dogs in the back. So this is my second rinse out. The water's getting a little more clear. And like I said, you're going to lose a lot of those impurities. There's another one. And we're just going to keep doing it until that water gets nice and clear. And try not to lose any rice in the process. It's a little harder to do it with one hand. My videographer is not around, so I've got to do it myself. And as you can see, that water gets more and more clear. So that's about my 5th or 6th rinse. I lost track. You can see the difference of the clarity of the water. The water's a lot more clear now. There's less starch. It'll take a while before you get all of it out there. It's not really my goal to get all of it out there. You just want to minimize it. What makes it easier too is if you have a strainer that I feel like looking for my strainer, and a lot of people don't have strainers, so I'm just going to show you how to do it in a bowl. So now that our rice is cleaned, I'm going to go ahead and pour this water out, and we're going to go check on our coals outside. Has the meshing tight enough that won't allow the rice to slip through. You could also just rinse it through, and as the water becomes more clear, that'll work for you too. But I don't. So all of our coals are pretty much lit here, and you can see towards the top how that's working out. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is that you're going to divide your grill in two. You're going to have one side of your grill where your coals are going to go, and the other side where the meat's going to go. A lot of people don't have this top rack, so for demonstration purposes, I'll take this top rack out just to show you how to do it on a one-level grill there. So my vents are wide open, and I control that down here. You want to get familiar on how you do that with your grill. The wider open your vent is, the hotter the grill gets, because it allows more airflow. The more air flows, the hotter the coals get. That whole spiel. So that's pretty much where we want it to be in terms of lit. All your coals are white. So no lighter fluid needed. So let's go on and get on to the next step. And I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on top of the grill. So you also want to leave these vents up here wide open as well. So what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to put the charcoal on the opposite side from the heat. The heat's over here. The pork chops are going to go on this side. Did I say charcoal? I meant to say pork chops. Pork chops are going to go on this side. And then we're going to let that smoke for about 30 minutes. And then we're going to put the pork chops on this side here on top of the coals directly to finish them off. Then we'll take them back inside. So we have a marinade in there. Now keep in mind, we're not going to throw that marinade away once we put those pork chops on the grill. Okay? Got our pork chop there. Gonna spread those guys out. And you see how our pork chops on the opposite side of the heat. So when I put that lid back on there, that smoke is gonna roll up towards this vent, lightly coating this with smoke. And then we're gonna finish it on this side here. If you really want to get fancy, I have a couple cherry wood chunks here. You can get whatever wood you like. And you can throw that actually right on top of your grate here. And that'll actually add a little bit more flavored smoke to your pork chops. So we'll get a little bit of cherry dusting on top of pork chops there. So like I said, we're going to let it go for about 30 minutes on the smoking method. And then after that 30 minutes is up, we're going to put it directly on top of the coals to get that nice char. And the pork chop should be done from there. But remember, I told you not to throw that marinade away. So this is what we're going to do with it. Before we get to the marinade, I almost forgot to mention the temperature that your grill probably should be at when you're smoking the meat for the first part. I like to keep it between 2. It starts to get too high for you. All you need to do is find your vents, not the top vent, the bottom vents on your grill, and you're going to slowly start to close those and minimize the airflow. Once you restrict the airflow, the temperature will start dropping. So let's get back to this marinade. 275 and 325. I keep the charcoal, like I said, on one side, and I keep the meat on the opposite side. And if the temperature starts... So what I did was I cut an onion about the size of, or the width of an onion ring. So I cut a whole onion into those pieces there. And then I cut an entire green bell pepper and an entire red bell pepper. I especially like the red bell peppers because they bring a different level of sweetness to your meal. So we're going to go ahead and put our pan on a medium high, and we're going to put a little bit of oil, whether it's olive oil or vegetable oil, either one works. And then we're going to saute the onions, not the peppers yet, just the onions, with a tablespoon of garlic. So we're going to just saute and brown these onions a little bit. I realize you probably couldn't hear me over all that noise, but what I said was we're going to saute and brown the onions and garlic just a little bit, and then we're going to add our marinade into that pot, and I'll show you how. This is the marinade that we're using with the pork chops in it. That's our onions and garlic. And we're going to let that thicken just a little bit. Now the reason I haven't added my bell peppers to this yet is because I want my bell peppers to maintain a crisp texture. So I'm going to actually add that at the end once I actually even turn off the stove and the rice and the pork chops are done. Let's go ahead and get started with the rice. So I have 4 cups of rice that I washed. Okay. And then I'm going to prepare a pot of water, and that water is going to have a mixture of coconut milk and water. We're also going to add a pinch of salt to that, more than a pinch of salt, but we're going to add some salt to it. Liquid in there. That liquid can be 3 cups of water, 1 cup of coconut milk, 2 cups water, 2 cups coconut milk to your 4 cups of rice. You just want it to balance out, and that's what keeps. So the ratio that you really want to have, you want that to match up with the amount of liquid to rice that you have. So if I have 4 cups of rice, I need 4 cups of liquid to keep you from getting clumpy rice or getting your rice too dry before it's cooked. So like I said, I have my 3 cups of water. I'm going to add my 1 cup of coconut milk. Together that's going to make 4 cups to match with my 4 cups of rice. Now we're going to wait for this to come to a boil, but while it's coming to a boil, we're going to add some salt. I'm going to say a hefty pinch full of salt. Hefty pinch. And we're going to add cloves and thyme. So when I say cloves, these are what the cloves look like. And don't let this intimidate you. All this stuff that I'm showing you today can be found at Publix, literally. Publix, Kroger, whatever, when the rice is actually done. These add great flavor to your rice. However, they're very super concentrated. Grocery store you go to. I'm using 3 cloves. For me, it's really important to remember how many cloves you're using because I like to go and dig those out whenever the rice is done. So we're going to throw those in there. And I'm also going to put, maybe I would say, if you have sprigs of thyme, 1 sprig of thyme will work. If not, a teaspoon of thyme will work. To bite into one of these is not the most pleasant experience. So if you even have cheesecloth, that'd be great, but I don't. So I go ahead and just dig them out whenever that to our mixture and let it come to a boil. So I have sprigs of thyme in the backyard. I really don't feel like going out there right now. So I'm going to go ahead and add approximately a teaspoon. So you can see that our marinade in onion and garlic mixture is kind of like thickened up a little bit. So I went ahead and put the stove on low. Now we're going to go ahead and add our bell peppers. Now that looks pretty. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and taste it. And based on what you taste, if you're happy with it, stay put. If you're not happy with it, you can do what you like. If you need salt, add salt. If you need pepper, add pepper. I'm happy with where we are, so we're going to stay put. So it's getting close to 30 minutes. Let's go take a look and see what's going on with those pork chops. So our pork chops look really nice. You can see how they're browning on the edges. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and move our cherry wood over to the side. And we're going to put these guys directly on those hot coals. That just looks like magic right there. And when you're searing them, let them sit. Don't move them or agitate them too much. I would say about a minute per side. Maybe we'll see what it looks like after a minute. But don't move it for at least a minute. So my minute's up. I'm going to go ahead and flip and see what we have. Nice grill marks. Let's go ahead and flip over here. Charring really nicely. Really nice. And if you have a meat thermometer, we can check the meat once we check the temperature once we get inside. I like to get my pork chops the same temperature I get my ribs. I would say about 145. So the minute on the other side is up. I'm going to take these guys and move them off the direct heat. Move them off to the side. And then I'm going to get my platter and I'm going to let them cool in that platter until the rice is done. So our water has come up to a rolling boil. I'm going to go ahead and add our rice. So we've added our rice. We're going to let that come up to a boil. As soon as it comes up to a boil, we're going to add our lid and turn it on to low heat for about 10 minutes. It won't be done in 10 minutes, but we're going to let it sit on the low heat for 10 minutes and then I'll show you what we do next. What you can also do at this point while you're waiting for the water to come up to a boil after you've added your rice, you're going to taste it and see if you like it or not. If you want a little bit more salt in there, go ahead and add a little bit more salt. What you taste in that water is what your rice is going to taste like. So I came back out to take our pork chops off the grill and we're going to put them into our container, cover them up with aluminum foil until our rice is done so we can maintain those amazing juices. And look at that, it looks amazing. And maintain our heat until the rice is done too. This is the from my mom's house. She's not getting that back. Those $10,000 bowl things that they're going for on eBay. I saw the story on Facebook. And this is a perfect opportunity to introduce you to the 3 freeloaders that live with me. That's Cairo. Hey, Kai. That's Millie. And there's Ava. Ava's the oldest. Cairo comes second. And Millie's the puppy. Millie's 8 months. She's a cane corso. Cairo's a pit bull, if you couldn't tell. And Ava is a Maltese Yorkie mix. Those are the goof troops. So we're going to cover this up with some aluminum foil and wait until the rice is done. So we have a gentle boil going there. Stir it one time, stir the bottom. By the time everything is all said and done, you're going to really have some rice that's kind of stuck and burnt at the bottom, but that's all intentional anyway. So I'm going to let that come up to a little bit of a higher boil. Then we're going to cover it with our lid, which I don't know where it is, so I'm going to have to use the bottom of a pot. Don't laugh. And because I'm married, I'm going to blame it on Janae. So we're going to stir one more time. Now once the water becomes kind of leveled with the rice like that, you can kind of start to see the rice at the top. We're going to go ahead and go to low, and then we're going to add our lid at the top. So remember, like I said at the beginning, we're going to go ahead and cover the rice for the first 10 minutes. So what we're going to do after that is we're going to take the lid off, we're going to stir it, then we're going to put the lid back on, and we're going to let it sit for the remaining, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes without uncovering it, without mixing it, nothing. We're going to uncover it that one time, stir it, cover it up, and then we're going to let it finish for that next 15 to 20 minutes. So this is the marinade that we made, or the mixture with the onions and the peppers. I kept it on low just to keep it warm until the rice finishes. It'll kick to it as well. But for right now, just to keep it simple, we're going to leave it here. Maybe next time we'll go ahead and do it with tomato paste just to see what it looks like for you guys. If you want to, you can add maybe a tablespoon of tomato paste and half a cup of water and let it thicken up a little bit. You get a nice pretty red sauce with a little bit of a tomato. So it's been approximately 10 minutes and this is what it looks like. It's not done yet. We're just going to go ahead and mix it. Stir it, move the rice around, and then we're going to cover it for about another 15 minutes, but we're not going to move it or touch it or anything until those 15 to 20 minutes are up. While we're waiting for that rice to finish cooking, I'll share an interesting story with you guys. I grew up in South Florida, in Miami to be exact. I lost power for like several days. I can't remember, maybe a week or so. So all of our cooking was done outside, and and when we growing up down there, hurricanes are just a normal thing. You're just used to them coming and going. Unfortunately, they cause a lot of damage. But one of the memories that I have growing up in South Florida, during Hurricane Andrew, which is one of the worst hurricanes to ever hit the state, being of Haitian descent, everything has rice in it, right? So the fact that you don't have a stove is not going to stop anybody from making rice. Took some of the fallen tree limbs and used one of the pots that we had and literally made rice. And we had the cement like built into the ground kind of grill, and she made rice with it. And when I tell you that was the best rice I've ever had in my life, it is crazy. I've never been my version of it. Smoky rice, I mean, it tastes amazing, but I have not been able to get it quite like my grandmother's, quite able to replicate it. I've tried once or twice, but I feel like it was just like the best rice I've ever had in my life. So I think one day on here I will show you guys. So we'll see when that comes up, and I'll definitely let you guys know. Maybe sometime next week with this coronavirus and all that going on. We seem to have a lot of spare time. So after about 15 minutes, this is what our rice looks like. Nice, light, and fluffy. You should be able to just run your spoon by it and just separate the rice. It shouldn't be all thick and clumpy and stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and look for the cloves that I was telling you guys about. These guys here. And take those out. So I have 2 more left to find. So I've plated my rice here on the corner of my plate, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and slice up my pork chops, or at least one of them, and then we'll finish plating. There's our pork chop all sliced up. Took it off the bone. Or you could leave it whole if you want and just eat it like that, or however you want to do it, and I'm going to go ahead and add our marinade to it. So this is the finished product, our pork chop with the white rice and our vegetable marinade. Add a little bit of parsley, and it takes it a long way. The reason why these dogs are being foolish is because somebody came home.